Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Engage 8 podcast. I'm your host, Zach, with my two co hosts, Josh and Mike. And we're just going to get right into it. We're going to recap Monday Night Football. Josh, want to get us started with that?
Yep, Monday Night Football, Bills at Jets. Obviously, the biggest story, Aaron Rodgers goes down on the first drive. 4 plays in, tears his Achilles. Just absolutely devastating for the Jets. One of the most Jets things that can happen, really. And Zach Wilson gets in. They don't let him throw down the field. They ran it like a Justin Fields offense, minus the design runs. and they ended up getting the win. Obviously, the offense didn't play great, but they go and they get that punt return to walk it off, and it's absolutely beautiful. Maybe the biggest losers of the night outside of the Jets, the Packers, who now no longer get that first round pick because Rodgers will not play 70% of snaps. That pick now goes to a second rounder, but I think the Packers fans are still pretty happy coming off of last Sunday.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you with that. It really sucks for the Packers and Jets both, but I want to focus on the Bills a little bit. Josh Allen, 3 interceptions and a fumble, two of which came in the fourth quarter. I think you just saw a classic Josh Allen there. You really just saw exactly what he is. He's a big game hunter, and he takes unnecessary deep shots. Yeah, like he converts them a majority of the time, but when he doesn't, it looks bad, and it really cost him the game.
Yeah, I thought Josh Allen was going to go into this game, kind of clean up his game. Last year, he struggled with turnovers. He didn't show that in this first game, so I took the L there. But Aaron Rodgers going down is just killer for this Jets team. Obviously, now they have Zach Wilson coming in. We have to watch, I think, 4 or 5 primetime Zach Wilson games this year now, so that's going to suck. Um, I mean, he looked all right, not great. Garrett Wilson had that incredible catch to tie the game up there. That was one of the best catches, maybe not, but I think that might have been the best catch of the week. So, yeah, it's going to be hard to see what the Jets do now this year.
Yeah, Zach Wilson obviously isn't great, but they could sign someone. Obviously, Carson Wentz is out there, which could be an option. I know a lot of people don't love him, but Zach Wilson, this would be what a redemption story this would be if he ended up leading this team to even a playoff win. They haven't been great. They have the streak of what is it, 2010? Was their last playoff appearance or something crazy. So that would be great if he can get them back there. I'm rooting for him. Jets fans just need to stay positive. He doesn't seem like someone who responds to criticisms very well. He seems to shell up a little bit. So if they could stay positive, he has the system around him, but he was getting attacked all night last night. He constantly seemed like he was in trouble.
Yeah, that O line, regardless of who was sitting behind it, just was not looking great. But Brees Hall, he kind of a little bit of a welcome back for him. Only 10 carries, and a bulk of his 127 yards came from that big one. But I'm glad that he's back. Dalvin Cook, he looked okay. He wasn't spectacular, but both of them made some catches out of the backfield. So it'll probably be a heavy dose of the run game until they figure out their quarterback situation. But yeah, maybe Zach Wilson could have a little bit of a redemption story going on, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah. And then just got to give some respect to the Jets defense. They had Josh Allen struggling all night and just played great, dominated, and won them the game.
Yeah, the Jets defense was great. I'm going to talk about it a little later when we get to the Jets game for next week. But that defense is going to keep them in most games, which is the blessing for Zach Wilson. He gets to play with a top 10 defense, arguably maybe top 5. So that will be great for him. He just needs to be. I think the biggest thing for him is just poise. He just needed. Oh, it seems like he's always freaking out back there. A lot of it's due to the pass rush, but I don't know. He just seemed like he was always in trouble last night. But when they get a full week to game plan and let him pass on the field a little bit, I think that'll be overall better for them. But that's all I had about this game. You guys ready to move on to college football? Mike?
Yeah. Couple big college football games this week. Obviously, Texas versus Bama. Texas upsets Bama. They are now the number 4 ranked team in the country. They returned all 5 starters on that offensive line, and that offensive line dominated that big Bama team. Just what a win for Texas.
Yeah, the turning point in that game was fourth quarter. Texas gets the touchdown to take the lead up 2016, and then immediately Alabama throws a pick on their own, I believe 20, and then Texas scores another touchdown, and Bama ended up making it a little bit close. I believe they scored the drive right after that, but then Texas got that last score to finish off the game. Texas, they might are they back?
I
Is
think they're
Texas
back.
back?
I think they're
It
back.
seems like Quinn Ewers has been great. They obviously have Arch Manning waiting in the graces, so that will be great to see. I'm happy to see that Texas is back right before they get into the SEC, so we will be seeing this matchup a lot.
Yeah, Steve Sarkisian, he just looks. He's developed a great roster, good pipeline to the NFL now. They look good.
Gets his revenge.
Yeah. Some other big games that happened. Oregon, Texas Tech. Oregon survives Texas Tech. Had a late comeback. Bo Nix looked all right. They came back. Washington State upsets number 19 Wisconsin. Miami upsets number 24 Texas A&M. Tyler Van Dyke looked very good. And then number 20 Ole Miss outlasts number 24 Tulane. And then Coach Prime does it again, beats Matt Rule in Nebraska, and Colorado's looking good. Shedeur Sanders is looking great. Travis Hunter looking great. They look good.
Yeah, I'm all in. I mean, who isn't all in on Coach Prime at this point? But it was like you said, it was personal for them this week, and they showed it. They blow out Nebraska, who was actually favored in the game. Or no, Colorado was favored. It was close though, especially for a home game. And that you guys see the Shedeur Sanders play where he ran around for like 25 seconds and then threw a touchdown. That was unreal. That was an unreal play. Colorado's going to be a really good team, and they're going to be rising. They're going to be what's their? Does anybody know what they are in the AP poll now this week?
I do
I haven't
not
seen it yet.
know.
I assume they got to be pretty high. It seems like they would, like AP poll voters would probably love that whole story. Because
They've
they're
moved
not
up 4 spots to number 18.
18. Okay, honestly, I'm kind of shocked they aren't higher than that. But yeah, only other notes I had here is that A&M game. Jimbo Fisher. At what point is Jimbo Fisher on the hot seat? I know he's got a big contract, and it would take a lot for them to buy him out. But I saw a lot of GoFundMe's from A&M fans trying to get the money to buy him out. So we'll see if there's a change there. But at what point do you just bring in the best recruiting classes and you can't perform? And then my only other thing was the Oregon game. Like you said, Oregon comes back to beat Texas Tech. They were up by 1 late in the game. They just needed to get a stop and knee it out. They were favored by 4.5. I had them at 4.5, and I was like, all we need is a pick six here, and it somehow happened. I guess it was just my luck that weekend, but that was a great game. It was a pretty great week for college football, I would say.
Yeah. Speaking on Jimbo Fisher, I mean, like you said, it's like 2-3 years since he had the number 1 recruiting class. It was a great recruiting class, and they haven't won anything since. It kind of has to be time for Jimbo Fisher to go.
And that was the big hire.
Mm-hmm.
And now look at FSU.
Yeah. Keon Coleman, man, he's going to be a first-round pick this year. Just watch.
Yeah, we didn't. I forgot to mention him on last week's pod. I know you would have mentioned him if you were here, but yeah, Keon Coleman was a freak. Then I'm excited to see FSU. They're one of the best teams.
Yeah.
All right, you guys ready to get into week 2 preview?
Mm-hmm.
All right, first game here. Thursday night football. Vikings at Eagles. My big notes here: the Eagles gave up 300 yards passing versus the Pats last week. They're playing a team that tends to pass the ball well. Kirk had a ton of yards last week, but just kept turning the ball over, couldn't get the ball in the end zone, lost a game he shouldn't have lost, especially with 344 passing yards. Most of that Eagles close win against the Pats was their offense. Their offense was pretty bad for most of the game against a mediocre defense. But they're playing a much worse defense this week, and I think they'll get it going.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Vikings and Eagles are both gonna score a lot this game. With the Vikings definitely last week having a lot of passing yards and just production in general from all over the place. And Eagles, I feel like they came out of the gate a little slow, a little half step behind the Patriots a little bit, but the talent ended up winning out. So I think this week they definitely will get back on the right track.
Yeah, I can't get my mind past. We saw this game last year, I think, on a Thursday night football game. It might have been week 2 as well.
I think it
I
was
think it
week 2
was.
Monday Night
It
Football.
was. Yep.
Yeah. And the Vikings went into Philadelphia and just got ran over. The Eagles dominated. They won 24-7, locked down Justin Jefferson, locked down that whole team. And I can see that happening again this year. I think it's going to be a bad start for the Vikings. And I think the Eagles D line is going to dominate the Vikings O line and just get it done.
Yeah, the Eagles defense I think is the biggest factor here. Like I said, the Vikings struggled to score last week against a Bucks defense that is pretty good. But we're talking about a whole new beast here in the Eagles. I think it's hard to not, like you said, think about that game last year. And I think the night game, Thursday night in Philly, first game in Philly, I think it could get ugly early. But you never know. The Vikings have proven to hold themselves in some games. I'm not super high on the Vikings, but I'm going to go with the Eagles here.
Yeah, I got the Eagles as well, but I'm not going to put it past Justin Jefferson to use last year's a little bit of motivation, having I think what 2 interceptions right next to him from Darius Slay, and I think that was the infamous Kirk throw the ball game, or that might have been a year before or something. But I know he was definitely upset with Kirk from that game. So Justin Jefferson, he'll probably go and get his strictly on like a vendetta basis. But yeah, I also got the Eagles in this one.
Yeah, I have the Eagles winning. I could see the Vikings hanging in there maybe, but their lack of a run game against this Eagles defense, I got the Eagles.
All right, moving on to the next game here. Falcons. Packers at Falcons. The Packers defense looked great last week. They played a Bears team that just didn't really have it on offense, mainly in the play calling department. But I think they are a good unit. I mean, we know they're a good unit. We knew that going into the season. I think they play a Falcons team here that runs the ball very well. Needless to say, the Bears do run the ball very well as well. Very well as well. The Green Bay gave up 122 rushing yards last week. I think we see a very similar situation here. The Falcons, like I said, they run it very well. But I think this will be a pretty close game.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you. Falcons are going to be able to run the ball well. Green Bay, their run defense, ever since their new DC got there, they've really struggled with stopping the run, especially Kenny Clark. He's slimmed down a little bit over the past couple of years and really focused on pass rush, and he's really lost some of his edge and being able to take on those double teams. So unless Wyatt keeps stepping up in the way that he did last week, Falcons are definitely going to run all over them with their little monster they have back there. And if they feed London a little bit more and Pitts, I think they can give the middle of the field and secondary a little bit of a tough time.
Yeah, my key of this game the thing to watch is the Packers defense versus the Falcons O line. I think that's really going to decide the game if the Packers can stop the good rushing attack of the Falcons. But I think most importantly, it's the health of Aaron Jones and Christian Watson. If those two play, I think that would skew in the direction of the Packers. I think the Falcons offense will struggle against this defense. Ritter only completed, I think, one pass over 12 air yards last week. So we kind of saw how the Packers defense played against a team that didn't throw it downfield last week. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a very good point about how the Packers defense played last week. I mean, the Bears didn't even really try. It's a very similar situation where I mean they're playing a very similar team, except for the fact that the Falcons O line is significantly better than the Bears, and their D line is better as well. So I think home field advantage will definitely play a factor here. The Falcons get to be at home once again. They played really well on defense against Bryce Young and the Panthers last week. I personally like Bryce Young more than Jordan Love. And I think if Watson and Jones don't play, I don't think that the Packers' weapons overall are significantly better than the Panthers' weapons. So I'm going to go with the Falcons upsetting the Packers at home.
Yeah, I went with the Falcons as well, but I don't view it as too much of an upset. Despite
I just said that because
right, despite what the lines say, I
Yeah.
don't see the Falcons really being like upsetting them. I I watched the entirety of the Bears Packers game, as shocking as that is, and as how painful as it was. Jordan Love, he didn't look too special. Then again, it was only one game in his third ever appearance, second career start. He didn't look too special, and given that the Falcons' defense, especially their D line, is way better than Chicago's, I feel like they're still going to give them way more trouble. It'll be a lower scoring ball game, I assume. It'll be whatever running back just breaks one off or just does something really well that changes the tide of the game. But I also have the Falcons winning.
Yeah, I went back and forth with this game. Um, I think it will be a close game, and there's many different ways it can go. But I also have the Falcons winning in a very close game.
All right, so that's another clean sweep. Next game here, Seahawks at Lions. Biggest thing here, I think, is the Seahawks possibly being without both of their tackles. I think that would be very unfortunate for them. The Lions' defensive line played really well last Thursday night against a really good Chiefs O line. We already touched on the Juwan Taylor stuff, so I'm not going to get back into that. But Seahawks offense, I think they have to play super well to win this game. They're going to have to score a lot of points. They only had 13 last week against a Rams defense that has Aaron Donald. But after Aaron Donald is kind of bleak, I think the Lions defense is once again better than the Rams. The Lions just got to figure it out on offense. They were a little bit rusty last week.
Yeah, you mentioned it with the Seahawks missing potentially two of their old linemen. Hutch is going to feast. He really will, regardless of who's blocking. And if they're missing one or both, they can just line him up wherever, and he's just going to go get probably another 7 or 8 pressure game. He'll probably rack up a sack or two as well. But the Lions DBs, they're going to have to be a lot better as a unit if they're going to want to contain that really good trio of Lockett, JSN, and DK. But there's a lot of variables that can go into this game, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah, this is another game we saw early last year, and this is a revenge game for the Lions. We know the Seahawks kicked them out of the playoffs basically last year. And this game happened early last year where the Seahawks, they won in a high scoring game. It was close. And I think the Lions got better and the Seahawks got worse. And like you said, Josh, they could be missing both tackles. I think this is a pretty easy game to pick. Lions home opener. And I think the Lions have a chance to dominate this game.
Yeah, I think they do too. As you said, they obviously lost to them last year. They lost to them the year before as well in another shootout. That one was in Seattle, though. That was Amon-Ra St. Brown's real big breakout game, especially for fantasy. I think the Lions are like I said, they were pretty rusty last week on offense. The Seahawks defended the run really well, excuse me, last week against the Rams. I think they had like 2 yards of carry or something. So I don't expect that to be the same this week. The Lions run it really well. Their O-line is phenomenal. I think the Lions run it well. I think they put up 30 points, and I think they win this game pretty easily. I just wanted to touch on real quick. Goff is at 359 completions without an interception. That's the third highest streak of all time. Rodgers 2018 with 402 is the most, and Brady 2022, 399 straight completions without a pick. So Goff's pretty close. He's 40 away from Brady. He's 43 away from Rodgers. It would be interesting. I would love to see him do it. He has Seahawks this week, and I think the Falcons next week. I'm not positive. So I would love to see him do it. We'll see.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't see him breaking it this week. I think he keeps it going just because it's going to be probably a dominant performance by the Lions. Because I have
he's not getting 40 completions this week, but
right. But I do see. I see the Lions just really running all over the Seahawks. The front seven not too insanely talented as a whole, but Gibbs and Monty, they're going to get theirs. And like you said, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's going to probably take a little bit of advantage of that secondary like he did last year. So I picked the Lions on this one.
Yeah, I think the Lions offense is going to kind of dominate the Seahawks defense. Devin Witherspoon might make his debut this week. Still unknown, but I have the Lions winning this game.
All right. And if he does debut, it'd be interesting to see if they attack a rookie cornerback. I mean, obviously, Witherspoon's a great player. He's one of the guys I wanted the Lions to take at one point, but it'll be interesting to see that.
Yeah, I would like to see him play. Coming off an injury and in his first career start, that's definitely somewhere. I know why to attack it. It just makes sense.
Yep. All right, next game out here. Colts at Texans. I was really back and forth on this one. I kind of still am, to be honest. maybe I'm just thinking I might just let this conversation go and pick as I go. But I got the Colts defense played pretty well last week. Like we said, they had a lot of. I mean, they gave up 31 points, but they had a lot. The Jags had a lot of short field drives. They need to get to Stroud. They need to disrupt him early. The Texans O line we know is not phenomenal, so I think they, especially Defoe, I think they really need to get to Stroud there. The whole game really depends on that, in my opinion. Stroud had no touchdowns, no picks last week, so he didn't make too many mistakes. If the Colts can make him make mistakes, I think they could win this game.
Yeah, like you said, Defoe, he's going to have to feast, and I think he will. He's probably going to be the best player on the field this game. Anthony Richardson, he's going to have to turn around and kind of build on that first performance that he had, or at least the first few quarters of it until that interception at the end. But I'm very interested to see how picks 2 through 4 in the draft play out in this game, especially it being a divisional game. So that's going to be good to see.
Yeah. Both QBs are 21 years old in this game. That is only the second time that's ever happened in the NFL. So that's going to be something to keep your eye on. And I think that's the key to the game. I think whichever quarterback makes less mistakes, that's the team that's going to win the game. Well, like you said, Josh, both defenses look solid week 1. And I think the Colts front 7 will give the run game fits for the Texans. So I think this game is going to be on both quarterbacks.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I really honestly, whoever gets to the other quarterback the most will probably end up winning the game. The biggest thing that I originally had the Colts. The biggest thing that kind of flipped it for me is when I was doing the Ravens game, I was like, wow, they really held Lamar to 38 rushing yards last week, and that was the most on the Ravens, who are a team that notably rushes the ball or runs the ball very well. I think this is a very close game, and the Texans are at home. I give the slight edge to the Texans, but like I said, I could go either way here.
Honestly, I went with the Colts. I feel like the DeForest Buckner being an X factor on the defensive side of the ball and Anthony Richardson building on what he did last week, that's going to be very X factory for the offensive side. So I went with the Colts here.
Yeah. The Colts, if they want to win, they need their running game to step up. We don't know if Zach Moss is playing yet. They also need the receivers to step up, especially Alec Pierce. He was silent in the first game. And they need to open up the playbook for Anthony Richardson. They need to let him throw the ball downfield more, let him get some designed runs. And contra to what you said, Josh, just because this game is in Houston, that doesn't mean anything, in my opinion. The Colts go down to Houston and dominate almost every
That's
year.
true. That's very true.
It's basically Lucas Oil South.
That is very true.
I know I said that I think whichever quarterback makes less mistakes wins, and Anthony Richardson is the quarterback that is more likely to make mistakes. I'm going to go with the Colts. We normally dominate in Houston. So I got the Colts in a close game.
Yeah, like I said, it's I have it in a close game as well. I don't know if we mentioned that Richardson did get hurt late in that game. I heard that they did pull him just waving the white flag. It wasn't truly due to the injury. But obviously that's something to monitor with a quarterback that's out there banging bodies. Next game I got here, Chiefs at Jaguars, a rematch from last year's playoffs. That game was an Arrowhead though. The Chiefs wide receivers just cannot drop the ball like they did last week. Literally dropped the ball. It was pretty bad last week. Kadarius Toney, figure it out, bro. You got to figure it out. Hopefully they'll have Kelsey back, someone that you can count on not to drop it. Knock on wood. The Chiefs defense played really, really well last week against the Lions. Like we said, the Lions were pretty rusty. Nick Bolton was just phenomenal. He's a really, really good player on that Chiefs defense. Do we know if Chris Jones is playing this week? I would assume no.
You don't think so?
I mean, he wasn't in training camp.
I
think there's
mean,
a chance he doesn't.
what's he got to do? Just
Yeah, that's fair.
he's what, 29, just playing D tackle. It's not like he's got to know coverage assignments or the playbook itself. He's just rushing the
That's
passer
fair.
or stopping the run.
I didn't see for sure whether he was playing or not, but
I haven't either.
Regardless, Bolton I think is the second best player on that defense, and I think I think this is really going to be a breakout year for him.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it already with Chris Jones. If he plays, I think this is easily Chiefs, but I don't see a world where he doesn't. And if he does, he's just going to make that immediate impact, regardless of how many snaps he would play or anything. But if they also get Kelsey back, that's just going to be another weapon that Mahomes is going to straight up abuse because he's going to be just scarred for life on throwing to anybody but Kelsey. But maybe Trevor Lawrence will fight back a little bit. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Mahomes is 13-3 coming off of a loss with a 45-15 touchdown interception ratio. He's the best quarterback in the league. And the Jags give up the fourth most yards to tight ends last year. So I think if Travis Kelce plays, I think the Chiefs win. But this is the first home game for Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence looked great last week, and it is a revenge game. They were kicked out of the playoffs by the Chiefs. But I think if Travis Kelce plays, I don't know who the Jags really would put on to guard him. I think he would dominate.
Yeah, I think the Chiefs offense gets back to humming. I think they get an easy 30 points against the Jags. The key to the victory for the Jags, I think, is really just get to Mahomes. You got to get to Mahomes. But I mean, even though we're going to, I know I'm personally probably going to say that about every single game that the Chiefs play. But even when you get to Mahomes, he manages to get out of it and make something happen. So a lot of the times with Mahomes, it's just what can you do? The Jags offense is really good. I think the Jags offense is just about as good as the Lions offense. Personnel wise, it's better, probably, outside of the O-line, but weapons wise, it's definitely better. And the Chiefs shut down the Lions last week. The Lions had 14 points. Obviously, like we said, they're rusty. So I think the Jags maybe can make this interesting. But I see like a 31-21 kind of game, and I got the Chiefs.
Yeah, I got the Chiefs as well. I'm just seeing Mahomes coming out after that unfortunate supporting cast performance last week and just absolutely lighting up the Jags for 30, 35, maybe even 40 points, especially if Kelsey plays. It's just gonna be one of those Mahomes Kelsey clinics that we see. So I got the Chiefs winning.
Yeah, it's actually Sunday is Patrick Mahomes' birthday, so
Ooh.
I think he's gonna have a birthday performance.
They bash.
I don't know. I think he's turning 28. It looks. I got the Chiefs.
Yeah, I just want to really quick retract my statement about the Jags offense being better personnel wise than the Lions. I looked at it in my head and I'm like, yeah, they got Ridley, but I think Gibbs and Etienne are pretty close. I like Laporta more than Evan Ingram, and the O line's way better. So I actually
whoa, hold on. Laporta over Ingram?
Yeah,
that's crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, Ingram's like a 10 to 12-ish ranked tight end.
I mean,
and Laporta
right now, just straight up
one
right
game,
now.
And Laporta was a star on Thursday, and he's played one game.
He was good, but I'd easily take Evan Ingram right now.
Evan Ingram's a receiver.
Receiving room, I'll take Ridley and
Evan
Kirk
Ingram's a receiver
and Zay over Amon-Ra and whoever else. Tight end, I feel like sure you'll call that a wash. Running backs, I guess
Amon-Ra, J-Mo, and Josh Reynolds are pretty close.
You can't say J-Mo right
I haven't seen J-Mo yet.
I mean,
we don't know what he is.
We have seen J-Mo.
No, one career catch. I wouldn't say so.
He's still on the team. Like, he didn't die.
But he's also not playing for another 5 games. So
but the O-line's significantly better than the Jags.
I agree with that. They got the edge in running back and
quarterback. They have the edge in quarterback.
Running back, or Lions have the edge at running back and O-line, but I think the Jags have everything else.
I meant the Jags have the advantage. Right. But all right, moving on here.
One more thing. There is a good chance for thunderstorms at this game, so that could hurt the passing game and just the over in general.
I think that favors Jacksonville. I think it definitely favors Jacksonville.
Yeah.
So I think they would like to see that. Next game here, Chicago Bears at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bears need to bring back some design runs. You can't run the gimmicky offense that they were running last season, but you need to bring some of it in because it did work. Regardless of whether it's a formula for winning, you have to at least incorporate it if you have a quarterback like Justin Fields. The Bears are coming off a stinker, and the Bucs are coming off a shock win. But I think the Bears, it's a get-right game for the Bears. Whenever I think about Bears-Bucs, I think about that Mitchell Trubisky game. Obviously, this one is in Tampa, and I believe that one was at Soldier Field. But
that is correct. Well, man, where do I even start? Bears, they're coming off that absolute shit show, so you're You couldn't have said it better. You couldn't have said it better. Wow, we are all struggling to talk today.
Yeah.
This is a get right game for the Bears, and mainly Justin Fields. Last week he had a couple miscues throwing the ball, and also just missed throws in general when he sees the receiver just doesn't rip it. But honestly, if Baker plays like he did last week and is just smart with the ball, doesn't force anything, relies on Godwin and Evans, it could be a really long day for that Bears secondary, especially without the Bears getting any pressure up front if they decide just not to blitz ever. Thanks, Alan Williams. But Kirk Cousins, he went for 344 against the Buccaneers last week. I'm not saying Justin Fields is going to light him up for 350, but this is definitely a gaining momentum type of game if Chicago wants it to be.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of Matt Eberflus-led defenses, and if you don't have an elite pass rusher, you're not going to get that pass rush you want. But I think that's going to be they got to get some sort of pass rush on Baker. If they have to blitz, they have to blitz. But just like last week, this becomes a must-win game for the Bears. I don't know if there's any must-win games for a team this week, except for the Bears. This is a must-win. And if they lose this game, it's not too early to call the season over, I don't think. And I think they would almost have to just fire Getsy on the spot.
The Bucks offense was not the reason they won on Sunday. And I have to put my pride aside. I think this is a good matchup for the Bears. They're playing a bad O-line. I think if they can get a little bit of pressure, I'm going to go with the Bears. I think you have to respond after last week.
I'm gonna be honest.
If they lose this week, I'm never picking them again.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm in the exact opposite boat as you. I went with the Bucks strictly because because they looked good last week, and the Bears look so bad. So unless the Bears show me that they can look good, I just can't pick them. And maybe that's just reverse psychology. And
I want them to win so bad now,
dude.
I want them to win so bad
now. It's a win-win for me. That's the best I can look at.
I'm putting the biggest bet of my life on the Bears.
Oh my god. It hurts. It hurts. They didn't show anything last week that I could really just, Vita Vea's going to kill us. He really will. It's going to be, I don't see this being pretty at all.
Yeah. There is chance for thunderstorms in this game too, obviously, just like Jacksonville's games in Florida. So I think the Bears have a good run game. They should have a good run game with Justin Fields at quarterback. They have two running backs on the field. As long as they don't call too many screens this week, I have the Bears winning.
God, not the screens again. I hate that.
I never thought we'd see the day where we are on the Bears side and it's not. If it rains heavy, I think 49ers Bears week 1. Good run game. Maybe the only thing the Bears do well, but they have a good run game. It's going to be a fun recap next week if the Bears win.
I would love it. I would not be more happy to be wrong.
I guess now you're in a win-win situation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. It's just I just want to see them test vertically, especially against the secondary that's not the best. Because you got Claypool, who's got physical tools to really just dominate on jump balls. Mooney, who can test in the slot, really take any linebacker for a ride. And DJ Moore, who's a yak monster. But yeah, we just got to see them actually throw the ball to those weapons and actually not throw screens. So
the Bears are going to struggle against teams with good O-lines and good secondaries. I think that is going to really be the teams they struggle against. The Bucks have neither of those. They do have a good pass rush and they have good receivers.
Okay, I feel like
the Bucks.
Or am I just thinking like anything led by Tristan Wirfs?
Tristan Wirfs isn't even really great anymore. Tristan Wirfs has kind of been.
They have.
Am I just out of touch?
They got one of the worst O-lines in the league.
Yeah,
really.
No, Ryan Jensen, his career is over.
Yeah,
right. Forgot about that. I mean, I'll still stick with the Bucks.
This is a rare. This is a rare matchup of a team that fits well for them.
I just don't see us being able to rush the passer well.
And the Bucks need to lose to help their chances for Caleb Williams. So
players aren't gonna. Players started 1-0. They're thinking, why not us? But who knows?
When the owner makes the call.
I have to imagine that the energy in the Bears practice facility this week just has to be different. They have to be
It
pissed
better
off.
be.
They have to be.
If it isn't, then what are you doing?
I would say the opposite. I bet last week they were going in pumped up, and I think this week they're just demoralized.
They're
Really?
either
I mean,
going to
at
be
what
just
point is
straight
it
up
fake
demoralized
confidence,
or
though?
just pissed. And they better be pissed coming out that flat last week. Oh,
Yeah.
now I'm all fired up. I hate this. Let's go to the next one. Get me out of here.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. All right, next game here, we got the Raiders at Bills. The Bills are coming off a game last night, which they shouldn't have lost. This is a similar situation. I mean, the Bears got blown out, and that's why I think they're going to come out and win next week. The Bills lost the game with Zach Wilson at quarterback, and they know they shouldn't have lost that game. I can't imagine that they do the same thing on Sunday. The Raiders played well against the Broncos, but the Bills are a whole different beast. Better offense, better defense. Yeah, I like the Bills.
Yeah, Raiders, they played well. They played well enough at least to beat the Broncos in Denver, which was a little bit impressive. But they have to go into a much more hostile environment in Buffalo. Josh Allen, he's not going to be throwing 3 picks and having 4 total turnovers on back-to-back games. Even though most of the stuff was forced, it's going to be mostly Bills in this one. I have the Bills.
Yep, it's the Bills' home opener. It's a big bounce back game for them. The Raiders lead the all-time series 21-19. I think the Bills make that 21-20. I think Josh Allen has a good bounce back game. I wouldn't put it past him though to have 2 turnovers again though. But I think the Bills defense will be enough to shut down the Raiders.
Yeah, we've touched on it. I mean, especially early in this episode, talking about the Monday Night Football game. Josh Allen just has to be better. His biggest gripes have always been he doesn't know how to slide and he gets reckless at times. He was really reckless last night. There's no doubt that all 4 of his turnovers were 100% his fault. Maybe the fumble, you could say he fumbled the snap, but he fully had control of the ball and just lost it.
It was definitely his fault. He fumbled and then fumbled again. So
yeah. He honestly, it was a good snap, but yeah. With that being said, we picked against the Raiders last week. I'm going to do the same and hopefully not get burnt 2 weeks in a row.
I just don't see a world where the Bills lose 2 games in a row where they should have won. So I'm going Bills.
Yeah, there is a slight chance for rain showers. Obviously, these weather predictions, we're recording this on Monday, so this could just be completely
Tuesday.
irrelevant.
Tuesday. It is
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah.
This could be irrelevant. But yeah, I don't think the Bills will lose 2 weeks in a row. Their defense looked good week 1. I think the Bills make the series 21-20.
All right, next game here. We got Baltimore at Cincinnati. AFC North matchup. All 4 AFC North teams play each other this week. Both teams played poorly on offense. I mean, Bengals more, but the Ravens should have played better last week on offense as well. I look at the Bengals and you could say, well, the Browns defense is really good. They kind of got beat up. The Ravens defense is really good too. Joe Burrow just has to get his swagger back. 85 yards passing just isn't going to cut it. And I don't know. I'm back and forth on this one.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat as you. Joe Burrow's definitely gonna have to come back and really dominate. And I think he will. I think the Ravens will really bounce back too. Lamar is going to show why he is in a lot of MVP conversations pre-week 1. I think this is going to be a very, very high scoring game personally. So I'm not entirely sure how to go at it outside of that.
I'm actually the exact opposite of you. I think this is going to be a low scoring game. I think it's going to be a defensive game. We saw this last year with the Bengals. The start of the year, Joe Burrow missed almost all training camp. He was, I think he had an appendix thing, but he missed most of training camp. I think most of the preseason. He struggled at the start of the year. They started 0-2 last year. He didn't play great in either of those games. I just see this being kind of a defensive game. There's a chance for rain showers. I think it's going to be a defensive game. It's going to be very close, though.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still going back and forth on this one, and I'm about to have to say my pick. So, I agree. I think it will be a defensive game. The AFC North games just always tend to be. And for that reason, even though I hate to pick against the Bengals at home, I'm gonna go with Baltimore. I like their defense better. And Bengals gave up 24 points last week to the Browns. I think the Ravens offense is better, even without J.K. Dobbins. Um, Look to see Zay Flowers get in the end zone, and I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens.
I actually went with the Bengals, but my reason for that might be different than what you guys might be thinking. I think Joe Burrow, because I believe this game is going to be a shootout, I trust Joe Burrow's arm more than I trust Lamar's arm, and the Bengals' weapons more than I trust the Ravens' weapons. So I got the Bengals in probably what I feel like is going to be like a 38-31 ball game.
Yeah, I'm with you, Josh. I just think the Ravens defense is slightly better. I think the Bengals have a really good defense, obviously. Um, I know we mentioned on the review of week one about the J.K. Dobbins injury. I think that is going to have an impact on this game with losing the Ravens' number one running back. He looked good before he got hurt. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think Joe Burrow is just going to, he didn't have a training camp, he didn't have a preseason. He just needs a couple weeks to get going. He obviously did not look good in week one, had like 94 passing yards or whatever. I think the Ravens are going to win this one. I think they're more in tune. I think they're ready. I think the Ravens win in a defensive battle.
All right, you guys ready to move on to the next one?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
All right, the next game here, Chargers at Titans. The Chargers really just chargered last week, to be honest. Their offense played great. Their defense was shaky, even though they shouldn't be. Luckily for them, I think they play one of the worst offenses overall in the league. And I think they should bounce back. We know that the Chargers tend to not win games they should. They tend to play down to their opponents, and I hope for their sake that doesn't happen this week.
Yeah, I'm on your side with that one, but looking back at the highlights from last week, I know you said, Josh, that at what point does Herbert have to start winning games? They ended up going down 36-34 with I think like a minute 45 left. Then I believe the order of events went holding penalty into a 2nd and 20, and then poor protection led to an incomplete pass and then a sack on 4th down. I don't remember if that's exactly what it was, but Herbert didn't have a chance. I'm going to be honest with you, especially to win the game. So now that I kind of see it like that, he did put up 34 defense. You could probably hold the Dolphins to under 36 at some point, but I think you have to feel for Herbert a little bit. I feel like there's been a little bit of that in every single game he's played, but that could just be me being a casual and saying, "Oh no, white man throw ball far," and he's all of a sudden really good. So I don't know.
At some point though, like we can keep making excuses for him, but Mahomes has a lot of games where his pass protection isn't great, and he makes it work with worse
Right, I know,
weapons.
but like,
And we treat Herbert like he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and I think he's very talented. But
is
like I
it
said, I think he has to win games, and you just have to.
is it really an excuse if it's really just exactly what happens?
Maybe,
Like, where do you draw the line? But
yeah,
against the
it's tough.
Titans, from what I saw last week, Titans are clearly the inferior team. Chargers should have this one pretty handily, but like you said, Chargers tend to play down to their opponents. So honestly, I have no idea right now. This is one of the tough ones I was deciding between.
Yeah, the Titans defense looked good week one. They had good pass rush. Arden Key looked good. And the Chargers offensive line is going to have to step up and give Herbert some protection. But what it boils down to me is the Titans quarterback is Ryan Tannehill. And so obviously that hurts them as a team. Um, Maybe he can bounce back and have an all right week. Their only chance to win this game is if Ryan Tannehill can put points on the board for him. Because Derrick Henry, he'll probably get his own. Tyjae Spears, he'll get some. But Ryan Tannehill just has to at least do something. And for Chargers fans' sake, I hope their defense can just not get carved by Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, for me, this wasn't pretty that hard of a game for me. I think the Titans are a pretty bad team. I'm pretty low on them. They sneaky. I'm not gonna say this is a prediction. I think they could sneaky be the worst team in that division, which isn't a great division. You just like their offense just seems like it's just so bland to me. Their O line sucks. They have D Hop, but outside of that, their weapons suck. They have Tannehill, who's like they've said he's leaps and bounds won this job over Willis and Levis. I don't know what that says about Willis and Levis, but I think it says something. I think it's a pretty tough matchup for them. Like I said, their O line's bad. The Chargers pass rush should be really good. I mean, it just should be. They should dominate this Titans O line. They have good DBs for the most part. And like I said, I don't really like the Titans' weapons. I think the Chargers should win this game easily. They should. But like we said, that's my pick, Chargers.
I went with Chargers for the exact same reasons you said. They should. That's ever since Herbert has been the quarterback, they've always had at least solid weapons around him and a decent defense. So they should be winning so many games. They should be putting up a lot of points. They should be getting stops. But that's all it is. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. If they lose this one, you just have no idea how you feel about the Chargers, especially starting 0-2 in that division. But I have them winning, so hopefully Herbert can just get it done.
Yeah, if the Titans want to win this game, like I said, they need Ryan Tannehill to step up, and they need Mike Vrabel to coach them to a victory. I think the Chargers win this game. I think the Chargers get it done, score more points than the Titans.
All right. Next game here, Giants at Cardinals. The Giants played pretty poorly last week, as we all saw, losing 40-0. But they started that game with a solid drive. Like if you watched that game and you saw the first drive and then you went to bed, you probably thought the Giants played a pretty good game. Obviously, when you woke up, you didn't. But the offense, they get to play a below average defense in the Cardinals. The Cardinals played well last week, but Sam Howell's still getting his feet wet. The Giants should bounce back. They should, in theory, run all over this team. Daniel Jones probably will end up with a lot of rushing yards. And I think this is just overall, my biggest thing I think is it's just a big bounce back opportunity for the Giants. There's not many teams as bad as the Cardinals that you could possibly get to face after losing 40-0, but they do get this gift.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Giants, who are, I feel, a very mid team in the NFL this year, and then a hot steaming pile of garbage with the Cardinals. It should be easy work for the Giants, especially given that they have the advantage at coach, the advantage at, I don't even know, I guess offensive line, I guess quarterback, running back for sure, but
quarterback definitely.
I'm also not high on Daniel Jones, but that's just me. Their defense is definitely better than the Cardinals, so I mean this isn't going to be a fun one to watch unless you're just a big fan of watching Saquon get 25 to 30 touches and should dominate this game. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I said during the Bears that there's not many teams that have a must-win game in week 2. I think the Giants are this maybe. I think this is a must-win game for the Giants. So I guess there's 2 must-win games this week for teams, but this one I'm more confident on. I don't think it's very close. I think the Giants are better. Obviously, I think their defense will shut down the Cardinals. I don't see this game being very close.
Yeah, despite losing 40-0, the Giants defense didn't play horribly on Sunday night. And they have a good defense. And they did last year as well. They get to play a team led by Josh Dobbs, and we saw him play a great defense last week, and he struggled. So I like I said, am going with the Giants, and I think this is a pretty easy one for me.
Yeah, I went with the Giants. I think all of us will probably pick against the Cardinals for every single one of the games this year, unless there's a crazy bunch of injuries that happen to one singular team that really brings them down to the Cardinals level. But I got Giants here.
If Kyler Murray comes back, I could see myself picking the Cardinals, but other than that, I don't know. This week, like I said, I got the Giants.
I don't see Kyler coming back. I'm going to be honest.
He's coming back.
Coming back.
He might be healthy enough to come back, but I mean, why would they screw up the potential number 1 pick, right?
If the Texans are playing poorly, I think Kyler Murray comes back 1,000%. They still have that Texans pick.
Yeah, that's true.
But
they won't be playing for anything. So why not just finish with picks 1 and 2?
I don't know. I've been seeing that Kyler Murray could be healthy like relatively soon.
Yeah, and I've been hearing like after the bye week.
Yeah.
When's their bye week?
8 or 9.
Yeah, it's mid-season, yeah. Could be interesting. I think Kyler, I mean, whether they let him play is the biggest thing. I think he has something to go prove out there. And I'll beat it more into the ground when he comes back. But Kyler is the most unnecessarily hated player possibly in the league.
I don't even hate him like that. It's just
I'm just talking overall.
The team around him. The team around him is so bad that I don't think he's going to make that big of a difference.
And that's why I think they play him.
He's dynamic. He's dynamic. If Kyler goes and dominates with a bad team, I mean, Caleb Williams is great, but if Kyler is playing great, you already have him in the system. Why would you even bother?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, they could play him.
Go get him Marvin Harrison.
They could play him and then trade him away and use this year's like audition tape for whatever team wants to come and get him and take on that contract. So then they go Caleb Williams for the reset, the contract reset, and then Marvin Harrison with 2 if the Texans are that bad. So
I love Jared Goff to death. I would kill to have Kyler Murray on my team.
I mean, given your line and running back room and weapons, if J-Mo turns out, which I think he will, then yeah, I think that's an easy.
Or honestly, the Bears don't have a great season.
If they don't have a great season, they'll have 2 top
Kyler
7
Murray's Fields who can throw.
And they'll be able to go with Caleb Williams, Drake May, or
both of them. They have 2 high picks.
They'll go both. Yeah. They'll do a competition.
That's their best chance.
2 top 7
It's honestly like, obviously that would be crazy, but with the Bears quarterback luck, taking 2 at the top of the draft, it's hard to miss.
I'll take 1 in the second round as well. Just see what happens.
Just trade up
and keep Fields on the roster. Have a 4-man competition going.
Yeah, Fields is gone if they're picking that high.
Get that Ohio State quarterback room going with Burrow and I don't even know who else was there. I don't know. It was a loaded room. Or Alabama room would be a lot better with Mac Jones, Jalen Hurts, Tua. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on. Next game here, 49ers at Rams. Little NFC West matchup here. The Niners are just such a good team. And although the Rams played way better than any of us expected last week, the Niners they're going to go over there and they're going to cook the Rams. It's going to be a home game for the Niners, as it always is when they play in LA. I think they're going to continue to overpower teams week in and week out. And I just cannot stress enough how much I love the Niners.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Kind of touching back what we talked about last episode with Brock Purdy. He looked really good, and I don't see how the Niners are really going to screw anything up against a team that's clearly worse than them. Even though Stafford, he was humming that ball, man. He was throwing dots to pretty much nobody's. So, yeah, it's probably going to be Niners. Not really much else to say about it.
Yeah, it was fun to see Tutu Atwell, Puka Nacua do good. But I think the 49ers defense is going to put an end to what happened with the Rams last week. This defense is just so good. Nick Bosa didn't even have a training camp, and that defense just went out and dominated. I mean, I don't think this game's going to be close, although I didn't think that last week about the Rams either. So,
right.
Yep. I mean, Stafford is known for he's just going to go out there and he's going to be a good quarterback. He's going to let it swing. The Rams run game last week, they had 40 rushing attempts for only 92 yards. Obviously, that's pretty pitiful. They still won the game, but I think they're going to struggle again this week against a phenomenal front 7 of the Niners. I don't think the Rams offense will be nearly as successful as it was last week. Yeah, I'm going Niners here, and I'm going to be saying that a lot this year, I think.
Yeah, I got the Niners. They've got a better roster than the Rams. They're better at almost every single position, really, except for quarterback. So I think you just got to go Niners and not even look at it twice.
You don't know about quarterback. I think they're kind of about equal, but yeah, I got 49ers.
I think they're about equal as well. Can't sleep on Stafford. But I
I'm
think
not too high on Purdy.
Yeah, we'll see.
I know he's looking good, but I mean, Stafford.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't fully bought in after what I saw on Sunday.
I was bought in after last year.
I'm not even saying I'm not bought in. I just think y'all are killing Stafford a little bit.
I was wrong about him in the offseason. You see what
he was doing last week?
Yeah, I know. I love Stafford.
He's slinging it, man.
I love Stafford. I think they're both around in the 10 to 15 range, probably.
That's
12 to 15, maybe. But yeah, I think just as a quick side note, the Niners are going to run through this division. They're going to go 6-0 in this division
Oof,
easily. Maybe
I
they
don't know.
maybe they lose one like at Seattle,
Watch them drop
but
both to
like
the Cardinals just because you said that.
I don't know. I mean,
That'd be insane.
we can go back and clip this if they do.
I
All right.
just want to put it out there just for the
Yeah.
clip.
All right. Next game here, Jets at Cowboys. Jets defense, like we said earlier, is so phenomenal, and it's gonna keep them in most games. Even this week when they're playing a really good team in the Cowboys. I don't think the Jets offense can do enough unless Zach Wilson has been learning from Aaron Rodgers and maybe can sling it a little bit. We didn't really get to see him sling it on Monday, so I don't want to come out here and say that he can't do it because we haven't seen it. It wasn't obviously the game plan got messed up when you lose your starting quarterback on the fourth play, but I don't know. I don't want to completely give up on the Jets because I just love their defense so much. It's so hard to give up on them.
I don't want to give up on the Jets either, especially because their defense, like you said. But Cowboys, after what I saw a couple nights ago, or was it last night? No, it was a couple nights ago. They were dominant everywhere. So with Zach Wilson, with his track record, unless maybe just 1 week of reps with the ones, that could help him out a little bit and really get familiar with the game plan rather than just coming in within the first like 5 plays. Maybe that lights something, but Cowboys are better. Their offense is better than the Jets' offense, even though their defense is maybe similar. I don't see really any other outcome.
Yeah, we saw this Cowboys team go into MetLife Stadium and just absolutely annihilate the Giants offense. I think if I was Robert Saleh, if you're not going to go out and sign a quarterback this week, like Carson Wentz or someone, I would almost consider starting Tim Boyle this week. Just because I think starting Zach Wilson against this Cowboys defense would just kill Zach Wilson's confidence. Because I think this defense, no matter what happens, is going to torch this Jets offense. I think there's a chance they get 2 more defensive touchdowns this week. And although both defenses are great, the Cowboys offense is obviously better. And if Dak can just limit the turnovers, not throw any pick sixes, I think it's going to be an easy game for the Cowboys. I think their defense is going to dominate.
Counterpoint. Have you seen the pro day video? Don't forget. I haven't forgotten about it. No, I'm kidding. But I think this is a good matchup for the Cowboys. They get to play the Jets' biggest weakness is, well, outside of now Zach Wilson, their O-line. And obviously we know the Cowboys defense. They're going to be all over Zach Wilson, and he struggles when D lines are all over him. The Cowboys offense, like I said earlier, they weren't insane last week, so I could see this being a game where maybe it like ends up being like 21-6 or something. Zach Wilson gets him in field goal range a couple times, or maybe they get a pick or something. But I don't see a world where, even though the Cowboys offense is pretty good, I don't see this Jets team giving up 30 points to many teams. So with that being said, you're in a 21-6 game. So I'm going with the Cowboys though.
I also went with the Cowboys, but kind of a different, well, similar reason, but some very interesting stat I saw from last week. The Cowboys had 39 total pressures on 25 dropbacks. That is insane. So that's multiple guys winning their one-on-ones or even a 2-on-1 multiple times for every single dropback. And that's absurd. I don't see the Jets really putting up anything more than single digits. Cowboys are probably going to put up 30, 35 because of a defensive touchdown, because Zach Wilson is probably going to start this game and he's going to suck. So I got the Cowboys.
Yeah, I can see the Jets defense giving up like 17 points maybe just off straight possessions. But I think the Cowboys defense getting them turnovers and field goal range. And I'm predicting a defensive touchdown. I can see this game being like 31-6, 31-9. Not close. I got the Cowboys.
Do we have do we know what the line is on this game? I would assume I'm trying to pull it up here. I would assume it's in like 9 or 10, maybe 9.5. Okay, well,
9.5. Yeah, I feel like you gotta hammer the Cowboys there.
I just want to say I'm not saying that I'm going to bet it, and obviously I'm picking the Cowboys, but a sprinkle on the Jets money line when they're big underdogs. I'm telling you, this defense, they get a pick six and they're in this game. They're well in this game. I mean, that's saying a lot, but it's hard. It's hard to not see what they did to Josh Allen last night.
The betting game and the actual game of football are so vastly different.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I think
no,
I see a world where they could somehow win this game, even though they're underdogs.
I'm completely on your side with that, but I just think it's so fascinating that something like that can really just can change it for betting, but not for the actual outcome of the game.
Yeah. I mean, that's really the times where you go is when it's a big underdog and you could see the sliver of a chance. But Zach Wilson. I would love to see Zach Wilson turn this team around. Could you imagine? And I don't think it's going to happen, obviously, where Zach Wilson like leads this team to like an AFC title or a Super Bowl. Like he just figures it out and can be a game manager. I don't think it will either, but
I don't think it's going to happen. But I mean,
what a story that would be.
If there was a time to do it with Dalvin and Brees, with Garrett Wilson and veteran receivers that Aaron Rodgers worked with and kind of taught them some more things. And I mean, for my fantasy team's sake, hopefully Garrett Wilson can still have a little bit of like a semi breakout year. But yeah, I just don't see it. It's so unlikely, especially given what Zach Wilson has done in the past. And like you were talking about way before, Mike, this might just kill his confidence. This game might just destroy him mentally, especially with just having pressure in his face. 10 out of 10 dropbacks, honestly. It's not going to be pretty.
I'd be worried as well.
I'd love it for him to just break out.
Man, if this team just had no line.
Such a fun story.
If this team just had no line.
They do have guys, though. They have Mackie Becton.
That's just another big name that's been underwhelming, though.
Think so?
Yeah, he's been.
I feel like he's got all the tools to be solid. And Elijah Vera Tucker, or is he hurt?
He does. I don't know. The Jets line though, like when we'll move on, but
solid.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, they have names. I mean, they'd use draft capital on guys, but it's just every single drop back he's under pressure every
year. Every year you feel like they draft someone in the first round as an offensive lineman and it just doesn't turn out.
Right.
It's wild. All right. Moving on to the next game here. Commanders at Broncos. The Commanders defense is very good, and they're playing a Broncos team who played pretty poorly on offense against a not great Raiders defense outside of pass rushers, of course. Commanders will probably struggle to score again. The Broncos defense played great last week. They could have been better. They could have won the game. But overall, I like the Broncos defense personnel-wise. I could see this being a really, really close game.
Oh, you were done. All right. It felt like you're going to lead out from there, but I'm same boat as you. I think this is going to be like a 17-20 game, very low scoring, very close. I honestly don't know who would come out on top, depending on how you feel about Sam Howell and Russell Wilson both at the same time. But it's definitely going to be a very defensive matchup. Lot of scrappy trench play too.
Yeah, I feel like this is just going to be like a field goal kickers game here. I think it could be like 16-13. And I think I have the Broncos on top of it. Their defense, it's going to be a defensive battle. I don't see any way this game is high scoring. Broncos, they do need to win this game though against the Commanders. If they don't win this game, it's going to be tough going for the rest of the year.
Yeah, 2 home losses to start the year would be tough. I'm with the both of you. Defensive slugfest for sure. I liked what I saw in spurts from Russell Wilson on Sunday. I think if he could end up having a really good game this week against a great defense, I think that would do a lot for his confidence. Another guy that needs the confidence boost. Another Wilson. This is another game I went back and forth on. I'm going to go with the Commies in a close one. I just love their defense. I love their defense.
I went with the Broncos. I think home field advantage might play a little bit into effect here. I think Russ just makes a few more plays than Sam Howell does. But I mean, if you do feel differently about Sam Howell and that Washington offense, maybe you feel differently. But I just like the Broncos a little bit more.
Yep, I'm with you, Zach. I just like the Broncos a little bit more.
All right. Next one here. Dolphins at Pats. Dolphins offense last week was phenomenal. Against a Chargers defense that I don't even want to talk about the Chargers anymore. But they should have done significantly better. Dolphins offense was great.
Should
Tua
have.
played great. The Dolphins struggled mightily against the run last week. The Pats didn't run it well. They were playing the Eagles, of course. I think the Patriots need to establish the run early in this game. They're going to be in Foxborough again at home. And I think the Pats are going to have to make this a dirty game to win.
Yeah, I honestly I kind of lost track of what you were saying at the end because we have two Monday Night Football games that I'm just now seeing.
Yeah, we were
But
just talking about that a couple episodes ago about what happened. It's
right,
here. It's week 2 now.
but yeah, like you said, Dolphins offense they were fantastic last week. Not even going to mention the team they were playing against. Patriots, they're going to have to somehow keep pace, and I don't think they do that. Their defense is going to have to somehow just rely on Judon and the pass rush to maybe get the Tua in time before he gets it out. But when you got Mike McDaniel, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, options are endless. So it has potential to be a good game, but I think it's going to get ugly very quickly if the Patriots don't do something.
Yeah, I agree. That Dolphins offense looked very explosive. The Patriots haven't started a season 0-2 since 2001, which is
God, I
interesting
hate
because
Brady.
because they won the Super Bowl that year. So
That's a
I
stat.
think they lose this week.
Are we
they on
rooting for the
track to win the
Patriots
Super
now?
Bowl? Are they on track to win the Super Bowl?
They might
And
be.
Can't
Tua,
count Billy B out.
Tua's 4-0 against the Patriots. So
Something's got to give.
Something
yeah,
does have to give.
Belichick and his dynasty, or Tua just being the Patriot killer.
yeah. It's hard to cover the Dolphins. The Patriots, they have a good defense, a good defensive scheme. They have one of the best coaches of all time. But if the Patriots want to win this game, I think their run game is going to have to dominate the game with Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott. I don't know if that'll happen, though. The Dolphins' defense looked great on that last drive. They got hot late, Jalen Phillips. I think the Dolphins might win this one.
Yep. Like we said, Mike, I think they need to establish the run. Mac Jones actually played pretty well last week outside of those first couple drives against a really great Eagles defense, significantly better defense than the Dolphins. So I think if they can establish the run, set up some play actions, it's a home game for Bill Belichick, who, I mean, phenomenal at home. This was a game where at first glance, I was like, the Dolphins are winning this game. And as I looked deeper into it, I went back and forth. And at one point, I was kind of leaning Patriots, picking the upset. This seems like a game that everyone expects Bill Belichick to lose, and he comes in there and wins the game. I'm going to go with the Dolphins, though. You can't. It's hard to bet against them after last week.
Yeah, same as you, going Dolphins. After seeing what I saw last week, I think the Chargers, oh God, I said their name. Chargers are better than the Patriots, and the Dolphins really just dismantled their defense. And I think Dolphins kind of do something similar to the Patriots this week. So I got the Dolphins.
Yep. I also have the Dolphins. So I might have changed my Super Bowl pick to the Patriots then, but yeah, I think the Dolphins offense is going to dominate again. Jalen Waddle, they're just hard to cover. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So I got the Dolphins.
All right, the very last thing I'm going to say about the Chargers before before we move on to the next team. The difference between the Chargers and the Pats, throw out the rosters, you have the best coach of all time and an absolute bozo. So I think I don't even think you can really compare those two teams. But all right, moving on here. Saints at Panthers, the first Monday Night Football game.
Woo-woo.
I honestly just can't fathom why these games are an hour apart. I don't know why
Yeah,
you
it's
can't
actually
start one at
terrible.
5 and the other one at 8. 6 or 7 and 8 or 6 and 7, whatever it is, just makes no sense at all. Both on ESPN too. But the Saints offense struggled last week against a pretty mid defense in the Titans. I mean, maybe not mid, but not a phenomenal defense in the Titans. Saints defense has to get to Bryce Young early. Always important to get to these young quarterbacks, especially when they don't have great O-lines like Bryce Young does. But I got to give it to the Panthers defense. They got some names on there we talked about in the offseason. They have names, but they're not necessarily super deep. They played pretty well for a lot of the game against a really talented Falcons offense outside of Ritter.
Yeah, I honestly don't know how to feel about this game. Panthers, they were all right, I guess, against the Falcons, while the Saints, they were just also all right against a lackluster Titans team. So I was kind of going back and forth on this one. I still not really sure right now who I want to pick. I'll probably just come up with something in the moment. But I'm gonna guess maybe home field advantage plays a good amount in that, but I still have no idea.
JC Horn got hurt last week. They expect him to miss multiple weeks. I think it's going to be hard for the Panthers to cover all three weapons that the Saints have, especially Olave and Michael Thomas. So that's making me Derek Carr is, I think, going to have a field day against this defense. Then they don't have a good offensive line. I think Brian Burns will have a good game getting to Derek Carr, but I think the Saints offense will still have a good game, and their defense is good enough to slow down and possibly just stop Bryce Young. So yeah.
That was also my biggest worry was the Panthers secondary in general. But then I go and I look at the Titans secondary, and the Titans secondary isn't phenomenal either. They're better coached for sure, but their secondary isn't phenomenal. I think Bryce Young gets a home game here, and he's playing against an okay defense. The Saints aren't phenomenal, but they're not horrible either. And I don't know. I was back and forth on this one. I'm gonna go with the rookie. I'm gonna go with Bryce Young. I think the Panthers win at home, and Bryce Young gets his first career win.
I want to go Bryce Young. I just feel like he's I don't know, something about the Panthers. I feel like I'm way too high on the Panthers. But at the same time, like you said, Mike, JC Horn, he's not going to be playing. And how are you going to guard Thomas and Olave? Carr should, if they can block Brian Burns, he should be able to go for a decent amount of yards. But I honestly don't know who to pick. I guess I'll just say Saints because just get a little bit of parity in the picks.
Yeah, I'm going with Saints as well. I was kind of hoping you picked the Panthers, but I'm gonna go with Saints. I think Derek Carr is gonna have a good game. I think Olave is gonna have a really good game. So I got Saints.
All right, moving on to the last game here, the second Monday Night Football game, Browns at Steelers. Browns defense, we talked about it in the recap. They were phenomenal last week against a really good offense in the Bengals. I see the Browns going in and doing exactly what the Niners did. I think they're just more physical of a team. Their defense is great. The Steelers defense is way better than they played on Sunday against the Niners, but sometimes you just get Shanahan. I think the Steelers defense is great, but we'll see. We'll see what we get from Deshaun.
I think I'm going to start using that term in my own little vocabulary from now on. Getting Shanahan is honestly the perfect thing to say about what the Steelers had happened to him. TJ Watt, what do they have? 3 sacks, and they still got their shit blown off.
Didn't matter.
So I do think that the Browns defense is maybe a little bit less talented than the 49ers defense just because they don't have all that talent up the middle. Like they don't have a Fred Warner or a Javon Hargrave. So maybe the Steelers can get a little bit of run game going and rely on that play action, and maybe Pickett finds a nice little groove going. But both really good teams. Again, we talked about it in the AFC North preview. This division is going to be so hard to predict week in and week out. If in a vacuum, all teams you could really argue winning against each other, but honestly, this is going to be a really close one.
Yeah, I was leaning Browns, but I did think, with the Jack Conklin injury, he's out for the year. This is going to be DeJuan Jones' first game in the NFL, and he has to go against TJ Watt. That could be a game wrecker for Deshaun Watson. Kenny Pickett has to have a good game to win. I don't know if you guys saw the possible concussion that he might have sustained on the first drive.
I did see that, yeah.
So hopefully he's okay. Maybe that was part of why he was struggling last week. But I think the Browns defense is just better. I think Myles Garrett is going to dominate again like he did last week. They have good linebackers. Their secondary looked incredible. I don't know if Deontay Johnson's going to play or not. I don't know if he's okay. I'm leaning towards the Browns on this one.
Yep. There's a similar situation with the Belichick back-to-back home games. It's hard to believe he loses both. Same thing with Mike Tomlin. I do think he does lose both, though. I got Browns in a really close one. I agree with you, Zach. Their defense isn't as good as the Niners. That's saying a lot, though. And don't sleep on Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yeah, you're right. He's actually really solid. But I got the Steelers. I think Wow. I think the TJ Watt taking advantage of a rookie tackle in his first ever start, that's just going to be too much. And regardless of how many chips or double teams you send, it's going to be pretty nasty. I think Steelers win a close one.
Yeah, there is a chance for rain in this game. I don't think that affects the game as much. I think Deshaun Watson has to go out and have a good game against the Steelers defense, do just enough, and I think the Browns win.
I think that's advantage Browns though for sure.
Yeah, with Nick
If
Chubb.
it does rain, and the Steelers O line just has, I swear they just never block for Najee. But that is it for our week 2 preview. As you can see on the screen right now, our picks from last week. I was 11-5. Zach and Mike were both 8-8. Even though definitely have a chance to catch up this week. I feel like there was a lot of picks, or a couple picks, where it was me different and you two were the same, which sets up for failure for me. But we shall see.
Or you could separate a little bit. Who knows?
Yeah, or I can separate. Right now, I'm gonna toss on the screen the graphic for this week. So pause the video. You can look at the picks. And then we're just gonna finish off with a couple betting picks. I'll start off. I am going with the Niners minus 8.5 in LA. Like I said, it's a home game for them. I think they're gonna dominate the Rams. And then the game we just talked about, I'm gonna go with Browns minus 2.5 going into Pittsburgh. I can see this game being a last-second field goal from the Browns.
For me, I've got Falcons plus 1.5 and the Falcons money line. I'm not that big of a believer in Jordan Love, and he's going to be going against the defense that is probably leaps and bounds better than Chicago's. So yeah, that's what I have.
I have Chargers -3. I think they're going to go into Tennessee and just kind of dominate. And then my other one, I have the under in the Ravens Bengals game. I believe there's a chance that both defenses dominate this game. And I just think it's going to go under.
All right, so there are the picks we
You know
got
what? I'm gonna throw one more in there.
Okay.
Despite my pick against the Bears, I think Justin Fields. I don't know what the prop is. I'm hitting the
Here we
over
go.
on the passing yards.
This is a coat pick right here.
What's the pass? What is it, like 120?
I have no idea, but he had over 200.
It could be the
week.
first double-digit passing yards, to be honest. Put it like 98.
98.5.
I mean, considering I think the line was in like the 130s or 140s last week, and he hit, I think 216 or 219
214,
or something.
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
Either way,
something
he
like
eclipsed 200 when the line was 60 or 70 yards under that. I think he takes advantage of a weaker Buck secondary. I don't know if they win, but I'm going Fields over on the passing yards, regardless of what the number is.
It always is going to come back to Justin Fields. Polarizing topic.
I had to shout out my boy.
We'll see how it goes this week. I'm very excited for that game now. And we will be back recording on Sunday night during the Dolphins-Pats game, and then that week 2 review will be out on Monday or Tuesday. So don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Follow us on Twitter @EngageAPod, and we'll see everyone in the next one.